Alright guys, so before I was moving on to my next step, I figured I'd just show some a little bit of progress. As you can see, the war zone is gone. Yes, the crazy mess that I had is now nowhere to be seen. Everything's nice and tidied up and clean, and no craziness everywhere, no cables and parts and pieces all over the place. Well, except for this, but that's because I'm charging those guys. And yeah, so I'm pretty much at almost the end point here. You know, not quite, but you know, we're getting there. Like it's a much happier time now that, you know, everything's functional and things are cleaned up. But yes, these few things I've been waiting for have finally come in. You can see, that's right, after how many years of me having this cabinet, I'm actually going to have pinball glass. I've never had pinball glass all this time. And a big reason for that was because I used to have, as you well remember, the good old Pincadia arcade control panel, which is now no more. That's right, this cabinet is only for pinball use. It has taken years, but it's finally happened, guys. So I'm finally going to have that glass in there, and it's going to look so much nicer. Oh my gosh, it's going to look so much nicer. And as far as these guys here, these are some tinted plexi blades, if you will, that I'm using on the sides here. And I'll explain a little bit more of that. So what I actually did was, on the sides, you can see this piece here, the wood piece. I basically have one of those on each side of the cab. The reason why I have that is because with this is a Williams wide body sized cab. I did it from scratch, but that's the dimensions I used. And with a 43-inch TV, it'll just barely fit. Like a lot of guys use 46-inch TVs, and you can't get those anymore. It's been quite a while actually. So 43-inch TVs are now what people are pretty much using in this size of cab, and it just fits, but you still get a gap on both sides when the TV's in, and it just doesn't look great, you know. And I also use addressable LEDs. Well, before I just had like some kind of metal channel kind of just sitting on top of it, and I never liked the way that looked. And I know some guys would be like, well, hey, just put like some kind of like bezel that covers the gaps down there. But the problem is, if I want to have my addressable LEDs on the side, I have to, my TV comes up, like, you know, like it's just kind of slides in there like this, and then if I have to take it out again, it kind of has to slide back out. Well, with the addressable LEDs on the side, even if they're just stuck to the side, they're going to get ripped off if I do that, because it's that tight of a fit. So what I decided to do was put those on each side, paint it up with a channel in there, so that you can put the addressable LEDs. Now that's my old strip. I might put a nice newer strip that looks a little bit cleaner and all that, but that's the old strip I had from before, and that's sitting inside there. And I also wanted to have, just like I have in the back here, tinted plexi to cover up the addressable LEDs so that they look much nicer. Like you don't see them at all while you're playing until they actually light up. And even then, when they light up, it's much nicer. You don't see like all the white individual LEDs or anything like that. You just see the light coming through. It looks really sharp. So I wanted to get these guys to go over top of the sides here, so that way it's all nice and black all the way around, and you don't see them, and it looks really sharp that way. So that's what I'm going to be doing, trying to figure out exactly how I want to put those in there. And yeah, and I got my apron screen that's working now, and yeah, and I got a little small trim for the blower fan hole here that blows air out to the player while they're playing, and the speaker covers for the 4 flasher strips that I have inside there. That's looking nice. And you know, this is a piece of wood that I did by hand, basically, you know, just a jigsaw and doing it the hard way and then sanding it down to make it look nice and round, because I don't have a router or anything like that. So yeah, so we got ourselves a back glass, middle screen for full DMD, you know, 16 by 9. The new pup DMD tables that you're starting to see now will work perfect on that, and I'll show you how this is all gonna visually look in another video when it's all actually running nicely, and then I can show you more of what I was intending to, how I was intending to use this. So that's the paint cab, you know, that's where we're at with that. And the PC that is right in the middle there, so that PC is what was inside the pin cab, but now it's in there, and it's going to serve triple duty for the pin cab, for my simpit here, which now has an ultra wide TV. And finally I replaced the wheel with a newer one because the old G25 died out. And also for VR, I have, I don't know if you can see it, a Rift S sitting over there. And so now I currently have 10-foot extension cables hooked up to the Rift S which is basically a good 26 feet total. Now it works. It actually does work. It's a bit finicky. I've had it crash out a couple times. I'm not sure if that's an issue with the cabling or if that was just a software problem, so I have to test that. But I also have 6-foot cables that if the 10-foot ones are too finicky, I can use those as well. So yeah, and I'm telling you, it's amazing because now with those 10-foot extensions, I can use this entire basement, like all of it, as one giant, room scale play space, and it's awesome. It's like, wow, having that much space to walk around in VR is crazy. It's awesome. But even then, if I didn't want to do that, like anytime I could just, use my space that's right here, because the nice thing about the Rift S is you can just do your Guardian on the fly, like within seconds, anywhere you want. It's so nice. So, yeah, and I'll show you back here now. The only reason why I have this cable on the top here, that's for SSF. And the problem is with the stupid onboard sound for the motherboard, you have to use this header for the side channels. It's stupid. I don't know why they didn't just have the additional jack in the back, but that's the way they decided to do it. And that there is to control the volume and the power of the, I don't know if you can see it, but the little sub there, because that's another change I made. The speakers that are in the grill there are now different speakers than what I had before. So those two speakers and my little sub there are independent from the rest of the sound in the cab. The rest of the sound in the cab is the SSF transducers I showed you in the previous video, and the sub that's inside. So I can adjust the volume of that, somewhat separately, or if I use a separate audio card, I can do that as well. And that way I can adjust the audio of just up there however I want. That way it's nice and set, and it's got its own little subwoofer that's completely separate. So that works out nice. It seems to be a good way to go for how this is set up. And I'll just show you back here my cabling. Nothing revolutionary, but you can see I have, it may look a little crazy, but yeah, I got all the audio cables, USB cables, and the multiple video cables, like HDMI and DisplayPort cables, all coming down to the PC, and then the cabling from the simpit coming on over, and it's all going to one PC, and all the screens are hooked up and running at one time. So that way I can, so Windows will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens, and I have my Rift S always hooked up at one time. So it actually works. It actually does. The Rift S can be a little finicky because of the extension cables I'm using, but it does work. So, excuse me. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now, guys. I just wanted to show you before I start putting the plexi and everything else on there, so that way you guys can get more of a visual of what I was trying to go for. So yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say. So yeah, okay. Probably the next video will probably actually show the cab actually in action with the newer screens and everything all running nicely. So I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.